Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here nice and early, and I'll get you going hopefully on some good stories. But thanks, Ted, for the intro. It's an honor to be here. Spoke here a couple years ago, and it's great to be back. Always, what better place to be than Boulder? And so jumping into storytelling, the purpose of what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some tips, some points, high level. We don't have a lot of time, and again, we're going to get with the audience is different groups, so I don't want to bore some people, but I also want to engage certain people, and then I'll give you some case studies. So quickly, who is GLP? Who are we? We're a unique production company. We've got a whole filmmaking work. We've been around celebrating our 5th anniversary this year. We've produced over 80 films in 20 countries. We've really focused on 4 key markets: the travel industry, food, wildlife, and education. And then we have this unique distribution model that's pretty unique for a production company to be getting involved with. And again, this is just high level, but we do events nationwide, schools, web, television, so there's a lot of different outlets that we're distributing these stories or short films. So what is storytelling? Well, I'll give you a longer definition, and what better than looking at Wikipedia. Storytelling is the conveying of events in words, images, and sounds, often by improvisation or embellishment. Stories or narratives have been shared in every culture as a means of entertainment, education, cultural preservation, and in order to instill moral values. Crucial elements of stories and storytelling include plot, characters, and narrative point of view. So there's a lot in there. You can really simplify storytelling, but there's also a lot of complexities if you really want to dive into what is a good story. And so what does all this mean? Well, share, present your story, have characters, and I'll go into this. Captivate, engage people, emotionally connect. A lot of this stuff you know, but a lot of it you miss. And I think that's the challenge of storytelling. We all hear it. It's like the word sustainability. We've heard the word has been used and abused for how long now? Storytelling is following that same light, but it's not as easy, but it's simple. It's contradictory. So in this case, the Masai Mara, with the Maasai in Kenya, storytelling is actually a huge form of education, traditions being passed down by the elders. So again, that's one aspect of storytelling. So why storytelling? Why is it important? You guys all know this. We're in a busy world. It's an opportunity to enhance the customer experience, consumer experience. You remember things, you share, especially with the web and social media. And then different styles and formats. I won't really go into this too much, but this is just a quick splash of some of the issues you should really look at. Styles, engaging, interactive, participatory. Huge part with the web now. Consumer-generated content. Huge market and opportunity for brands to let consumers help dictate their brand and get involved in the story. Different formats, long, short. We focus on short films between 30 seconds and 10 minutes. That's really our specialty. Distribution, again, a whole nother conversation. How are you going to market that story? And then lastly, before I go into some case studies, the film planning details. Again, I won't go into each one of these, but who's your audience? What are your needs on the content? Big issues, you really need to be strategic if you're going to tell a story. It's not just grabbing a camera and going out there and shooting some film. Not at all. The hardest part is the planning. We leave Monday for filming for 10 days in Oakland and Salt Lake on urban food issues. The hard work is almost done. When we're there filming in Oakland on Monday, that's going to be the easy part. The hard work has been the last 3 months putting this all together. What's your budget? Always go high. Your budget's always going to be much higher than you think. Partnerships. So many great relationships or things can come out of producing a film. Collaborate. Sales, marketing. What's your goal? What are you trying to produce? And again, at the very end, I'll show you a complete story that brings in the intro, the conflict sometimes, and then that resolution. And then lastly, the production plan. I'm going to go into each one of these elements, or 3 of these elements today. What are the objectives in producing a film or a story? What are the themes? I'll have one great example today. Characters, such an important role. And location. Where are you going to film? You know, what's the diversity? So on that notion, on location, so this is an example of a film we produced last year in Kenya. See the locations, see the camera angles, see the different perspective we're trying to give on one region. And again, it's just a 2-minute clip taken out of a longer film, and I think there'll be some good lessons.
elephants used to move freely from one area to another without problems. But as the population density in the country and the rest of the world kept on going up, the elephants cannot move. And this is not good because of the genetic pool, because it will weaken the genetic pool. And that's why, to us, the corridor is very important.
What makes this corridor so unique, and this whole underpass, is the fact that it is linking two very, very different habitats. You've got your high montane, so, 2,000, 3,000 meter forest, and lowland savanna, and right into the north. This is two very valuable pieces that are an integral part of the elephant's survival. My father, who is a professional hunter, he then came and lived here, and I was born here. And I think he and my grandfather taught us the importance of looking after the land and caring for the land. And I think, I'm very fortunate to have had that insight.
So you can see different perspectives, the aerials, the low-lying shots, the more behind-the-scenes perspective. And that really, there's so many great lessons when you look at location, and depends on what angle you're looking at. Obviously, this was all shot in Mount Kenya, in Kenya. But that mix of locations provides depth and content and context of where you are. And then also on the production side, you really need that diversity. You don't just want someone talking in front of a camera for 20 minutes. You're going to put people to sleep. You want to really mix things up and have some variety to keep people engaged. So what is a great story? Again, this could be a whole conversation in itself. You could really break it down into so many different elements, but I'll throw out some key words just to keep it really simple and short here, but it's got to be powerful. It's got to be engaging, educational, teach people, educate people on your brand, on your service, on what you're trying to accomplish. Perpetual, you want it to last most of the time. Sometimes, there are films now that people shoot for a very specific purpose. But in my opinion, make it as long-lasting as you can. And lastly, you've heard this point being brought up at LOHAS, take a risk. Take a risk with your challenge. Show people the behind the scenes of your brand, of your product, the work you do. Give people a real sense of who you are as an organization. I can't tell you how important that is, and the benefits are huge. So character, this is probably the part I love the most, because I'm generally interviewing people on location, and it's always great to pull their heart out of what they're doing, to make them laugh, to make them cry, to whatever. And emotion is such an important part in storytelling. So this is a film we shot outside of Chicago with Angelic Organics, the first CSA serving Chicago. Great story if you've heard of Farmer John, The Real Dirt Farmer John, a great documentary in his life. But this is looking at the farm, but also the issues in Rockford, Illinois, 2 hours outside of Chicago. And this is a classic story of food deserts. You've heard about food deserts in the food industry. It's a big market for us. And so many great stories and issues to look at. And so this is just a quick excerpt looking at one character that we focus on in this film, Javon, and his development. And you really get, I think, a nice emotional connection with him. So the importance of character in a story.
This is not the red, this is the black radish.
Which tastes better, black or red?
Red.
Red?
They said...
So why are you growing black if they don't taste good?
No, because people like black. At the market, they'll buy these more than they'll buy these.
Really?
Yeah, because they just like the odd color. I was just talking the other day to my friend when I was at Black Hawk Park. We was just playing basketball. I told him I just got off of work.
Yeah.
And he was like, where you work at? I was like, I work in the garden. He was like, no. He was like, no, for real, where you work? I work in the garden. He started laughing. I'm like, what you laughing at? I'm like, this gonna give me opportunity to put stuff on my resume. And he looking at me like, well, it ain't gonna make you no money. I was like, down the stretch, it will.
Sure.
I was just getting into his head because it was so true. Yeah. He ain't want to hear it.
Oh, this is one of your buddies too.
Yeah.
One of the reasons Javon is a great example of change is because he's exhibited perseverance.
I used to do a lot of bad stuff like when I was younger. And then my mom just one day like, you should just go ahead and do something that that'll motivate you.
Yeah.
I came out here, I looked at this like, this is not for to motivate me. I was like, Mom, stop playing. She like, well, this will motivate you. You know, just keep doing it, see how you like it.
He's a role model because he is a young black man who is positive, and other young black men need to see him in that role.
Came to work when people were saying, hey, what are you doing? Isn't this kind of some girly, low-class job? He's had the strength and the masculinity and the character to keep coming back. It's changed his perspective, not just for 8 hours a day, but how he lives out his life.
It feels so good. It just feels
Dude,
like
you're a role model, man. I mean,
it's an uplift.
Yeah.
It's a big uplift. And by it being a big uplift, you look at all the people around you like, just come on, get on the train. Get on the train.
Thanks, man. So again, another little excerpt into storytelling. Javon is a character that I'd love to have in every film. You want to follow him. You want to go further. You want to see where he's from, his history. I mean, there's so much more. Again, I wanted to show just a quick excerpt, but character development is so crucial. Who are the people that are going to resonate your story and talk about your story? Maybe not the whole thing. You could have a multiple of characters, but obviously you want to follow him. You emotionally connect with him. You know, when we did the premiere for this film in Chicago, I had goosebumps coming down because Javon was in the back row. He wanted to see his story. And, you know, it's that kind of emotional connection you want to have with your characters. And lots of production work to do. You know, you want him to ultimately engage. He wasn't a kind of guy that wanted to stand there and be filmed. I had to participate with him and farm. That was great, no problem. I didn't know what I was doing, but I had a good time with him. And again, he was able to really get comfortable and talk freely. So important. Other storytellers, we're not the only storyteller out there. Free Range, they've done so much great work. You all know the story of Stuff, a great animation series with Annie Leonard. Whole Foods, great whole film series and great effort they've done in local food around the country. Stories are not just through film. Radio, This American Life. So many great examples that are, it's not just video. You can do it with photo, you can do it with text. Manufacturing, Patagonia, one of the leaders in the outdoor industry, amazing stories and very honest and upfront on their challenges. So another example, sort of the last theme I'll break out here, or issue in a production, is theme. This is a film we shot last year in Congo, DR Congo, an amazing part of the world, very volatile, a lot of stuff going on. It's pretty emotional for us. We were there in March of last year, and in June, you'll see there was an attack by rebels that came in, not to kill the okapi, highly endangered forest giraffe, but they actually came in just because they were annoyed with how well the government was doing in preventing mining and poaching of ivory. And you know, the Mbuti Pygmies, their story, the characters there, enormous. Again, it's a hot spot, UN vehicles everywhere. You know you're in a hot spot when you got the UN initials on every single piece of equipment and buildings. So here's the last example I'll show on the power of message.
Because of the political turmoil over the last 20 years, the DRC has its infrastructure is not able to handle some of the illegal activities that go on. So because of that, also some of this turmoil produced a lot of armed men who are very capable of using those arms. And so we have to actually arm the Rangers here to make sure that they can do their job and be safe. And there is enough conflict here that these guys occasionally get killed. It's that dangerous. So they're dealing with some really tough guys. These poachers that are out there killing elephants are bad news.
Là, il y a un problème. Regardez, il y a un problème ici. Voilà, boum, ok. Là, voilà, ok. On évite toujours. Là, 90. Allez, debout.
It's just harder for us because when you're on the plains in East Africa or Southern Africa, you can see everything. But here in the rainforest, there's a lot of cover. It's very, very difficult for someone to fly over even to see what's happening. So you have to have the guys on the ground knowing what's going on. And so that's why these guys are so important.
Message and theme in this film is engaging people on this tragedy that occurred in the Congo. You connected it in so many different ways. You can look at the wildlife, the human side, the regional issues. I mean, I went to school in Kenya studying wildlife management, and I feel more bad for the region. I feel bad, obviously, for the people and the wildlife, but it's the region that I connect with. That viewer takeaway, and obviously lots of production to do. You have to have that climax. You have to have the emotional engagement. The editing, the audio, absolutely crucial. So lastly, this is just putting some of the pieces together. Taking you on the last journey to Tanzania. This is a story that's bringing out the context, all the elements that I've just talked about, trying to fine-tune into one component. Again, this is more of a travel, journey, tourism, looking at the Maasai community and their stories. But again, looking at the intro, the conflict, the challenges, and then the resolution, where this is all going. On the eastern plains of the Great Serengeti ecosystem, a groundbreaking conservation project is underway. It's called Anashiva. Since its inception in 2006, wildlife populations have dramatically increased. Rare tree species have been protected, and communities across the region have been working together to achieve their self-determined goals. We believe that sustainable tourism can continue to empower local people, preserve fragile ecosystems, and protect vulnerable wildlife populations.
We borrow this land from our children, our children's children. We don't own it. It's for the future of all that come after us. You know, we are guardians of this land. It's not ours, so we do the best we can within our resources and what we do. And what we do is tourism. This was an opportunity to, give some value to the community for tourism, to give some value to the community for what conservation can be as a resource to them. And it was an opportunity to give some additional value to our guests so that they come here. There's a little bit more depth than they would otherwise get in a national park. They're involved with communities, they go to the bomas, they sit with the storytellers. In some way that this has changed their life and it's made them think, and it's memorable and it's something that they will not forget.
Having a place like this farm in the eastern Serengeti is just really special because you can do walking safaris, you can do night game drives, you can give people surprise bush breakfasts or bush dinners. There's many things you can do that you can't do in a national park. And personally for me, that was really exciting to be able to offer these types of things. They're hard to offer in Tanzania because the bulk of the work people do is in national parks. This farm is surrounded by community, which was really important to us because we wanted to have a community conservation aspect involved in our safaris. There are many different clans, and in this area there are several clans that surround the farm, and you know, these made for challenges because some people felt like they had hierarchy over others, which creates tension in community. And you know, even though breweries had owned this land for 20 years, we came along and a lot of these underlying issues were still there.
You know, we are the modern guys who we are trying to cope up with these changes of science and technology.
Yeah.
So to me, my life cannot be like how my parents were.
Yeah.
And this is one of the steps that we are moving forward with. Women sometimes do milking of the cattle.
Well, the women build the houses too.
The women's build.
Did your mother build this?
Yeah, my mother built like this one.
And so, wait, tell me what, so this is cow dung?
Yeah, this is cow dung.
So that's fresh cow dung.
Yeah, this is because the house gets
Just
linkage.
like the other day.
Yeah,
Still soft.
yeah, because the house get linkage. So
Okay.
if the rain is coming, then they smell with the fresh.
You patch it home.
Yeah, so that cannot get linkage so much.
Cool.
Yeah.
Keeta siyiok entoki nikijo amu ekiata mbaa uni. Kwanza king'as ajo ore oshi irpayiani naa ninche oitore entomonok. Naa ore ntoyie mekure kiyieu nishori aa kutitik amu kisomi alayioni nepali entito eitu isomi. Neeku etaa kiyieu paa ore pee kisoma tenaa layiok aare naata ntoyie are nisoma pokirare lasima pee enyanyuk pokirare. Ekiyieu. Nemikiure sii kiyieu nishori ntoyie aa kutitik meeme.
We're not there just to build schools. We're there to provide resources for them, this whole symbiotic thing they keep talking about, the kind of wildlife tourism and community. I'm not sure that I think it's sustainable right this minute. I think what we're trying to do is make it sustainable. Rick and I ask ourselves, how can we pass the baton carefully over to other people so that this can last for a long time? And invariably, most of that control has to come to the people that are there. The Maasai themselves need to be able to control this land and benefit from this land.
So lastly, I won't go into each part of this, but it ties it all together. It brings all the elements that we've been talking about today. And then lastly, just the benefits of storytelling. I won't go into each one again, but just relationships, growth of your business, partnerships, competitive advantage, show your story like no one else can. Help create change. We've talked about that extensively at LOHAS this year. And I think what is lost out a lot of times is that self-assessment. You produce a film, you're gonna learn so much about your company and organization or what you're doing more than you ever imagined. When you're forced on camera, it's like no other experience. So what can you do? Find your story, educate and engage people, make change, have fun with it, enjoy the process. And then lastly, as I said earlier, take that risk. So we're gonna be going globally over the next year. We've got a lot coming up. And then in particular, if you wanna follow us next week, come up and talk to me, but we're gonna be doing 3 great urban food films in Oakland and Salt Lake. So thank you very much.